found you. They always wake you up at 3 a.m. sharp. They? The people who live underneath you, of course. Sometimes it's the crash of something breaking. Sometimes it's the thud of someone falling. Sometimes it's an unsettling wailing. And sometimes it's like today. A blood-curdling scream that jerks you awake, ears ringing from the sound. You've filed multiple reports with the security of your apartment complex, and they always say the same thing. They'll handle it, so you shouldn't worry. At one point, you gave up trying. Rubbing your eyes, you check your phone for the time, and as expected, it's 3 a.m. on the dot. Looking around the small room, you regret not purchasing more nightlights. Your room is shrouded in darkness except for one measly nightlight, which barely illuminates your bed. Maybe you should be embarrassed, but the truth is, you can't help but feel afraid at night. The only reason you purchased an apartment here is because it's cheap and relatively close to your workplace, so you can't complain that the area and complex is questionable. Sighing, you listen closely to check if your neighbors underneath are making any more noise. But it's quiet, disturbingly so. Like always, once they wake you up with an unsettling noise, they fall completely silent. You're laying back down to try and fall asleep when you hear the scratching. You freeze when you realize the scratch is coming from underneath your bed. You aren't the only one they wake up. Gripping your blanket tightly, you pull it over your head hoping that you can muffle out the sound and please just fall asleep. But you can't. Even your heart's rhythmic thump can block out the scratching, which is becoming more insistent the more you try to ignore it. Pulling the blanket off, you jump off the bed and back away, not realizing you're getting further and further into the darkness of the room. Distracted by the persistent scratching, it takes a moment for you to realize the presence of someone behind you. In the corner of the room, in the cover of darkness, a figure stands silently. Red eyes stare back, and before you can scream, the figure disappears. What was that? I've never seen it before. Once more, silence fills your room. All you can hear is the thump of your heart. You can't leave the building at this hour, so you'll do what you always do when they wake you up at 3 a.m. You'll go check the mail. A silly habit, yes, but it's the only excuse you have to leave the room when you're afraid. The walk helps, and by the time you come back, things have calmed down. No more incidents usually take place for the rest of the night. Taking quiet steps, you cautiously approach the coat rack so you can quickly grab your coat before leaving. It's usually cold inside the building, so you always make sure to keep your keys in its pocket for every night. You see something moving in your periphery, and that's all it takes for you to run out the door, hands trembling as you rush to lock it. Even though you're on the 10th floor, you decide to take the stairs instead of the elevator, wanting to prolong the walk. You're greeted by peeling wallpapers and the characteristic dank smell of the hallway as you follow the tilted emergency exit signs to the stairway. Just as you're starting to relax, you hear footsteps behind you. You turn around, gasping in surprise, but see nothing. There's no one there. It's your first time experiencing something like this in the hallway, so you don't know what to expect. Hurrying your pace, you contemplate whether you're better off here or inside your room. At least outside you have the means to escape if it gets worse. You still have the feeling you're being followed, so you can't help glancing back as you go down the first flight of stairs. Grimly, you think, maybe if I fell right now, I could go to the hospital. It's safer there and I'd finally get some much-needed rest. You shake off the dark thought and remind yourself you can't afford to get hurt. You can't believe you're so desperate you would consider something like that. You need to keep working if you want a roof over your head and enough food to eat. Besides, who's going to pay the hospital bills? The demon? You chuckle darkly as you reach the 9th floor. I should visit my dear neighbors and give them a piece of my mind. But as much as you want to, the nature of the noises which wake you up cause you to steer clear of the floor and continue your descent. The rest of the way down is without incident, but you don't let your guard down. The ground floor is empty, and it makes you wonder if you're the only one awake in your entire building. My neighbors can't be sleeping right now, you think. So why is it that I never run into them? Lost in thought, you enter the mail room. You've received the usual coupons and ads in your mail, but there's also a letter addressed from New York. Mother finally replied, and through mail at that. How old-fashioned and so very like her. Smiling, you think, maybe things are finally looking up. My silly habit proved useful after all. But as you turn around happily, a letter on the floor makes you stop in your tracks. It couldn't have fallen from your hands. It's too far away. Maybe I didn't see it as I entered the mailroom? What you see when you get closer leaves a chill in your body. On it, in big black letters, is your name. Shaking, you look around to see if someone left it there as a prank, but of course, there's no one there. With trembling hands, you pick up the letter, nerves making you slightly nauseous as you open it. Only 7 words fill the page, letters disturbingly red and dripping. Come find me before I find you. Panicking, you crumple the letter before it freaks you out any more than it already has. Someone's definitely trying to play a prank on me. Huffing with anger, you resolve to throw out the letter as soon as you see a trash can. As you're about to leave for the stairs, the elevator opens with a ding. It's empty. Now thoroughly freaked out, you run to the emergency exit. Your room suddenly feels more appealing. Your heart sinks when the door doesn't push open. It's locked! Yelling out in frustration, you punch the offending door, willing it to open. It doesn't budge, and the horrific realization sinks in. You have to take the elevator. Your terrified reflection stares back at you from the mirror inside the elevator, and it feels as though you've just stepped inside the mouth of a beast. Crumpled letter in one hand, you press your floor and pray you get there fast. That's when you see the emergency exit open. Out steps the shadowy figure from your room, red eyes staring into your soul. Screaming, you push the button frantically as it gets closer and closer. In a blink, the figure is only 5 steps away and you think, I'm gonna die in an elevator, oh my god. But the elevator whooshes closed just in time. Heaving in huge breaths, you admit that maybe it's time you put aside your pride and ask your mother for some money so you can move out of this godforsaken place. The elevator stops, but something is wrong. It's the 9th floor. You press the button again, convinced it's broken. Nothing is going right. At this point, it's reasonable that you feel like crying from the frustration and fear. A part of you wants to curl up into a ball in a corner somewhere and just give up already. But you can't. Bracing yourself, you step out of the elevator. You decide you're going to make a run for the exit and just pray it's not locked so you can go up to your floor. You start racing to the exit but skid to a sudden stop, narrowly avoiding slamming into the apartment door that just opened out of nowhere. You're about to apologize and maybe yell at whoever opened the door in your face, but there's no one there. You're not even surprised at this point. At this point, I wouldn't even be surprised if I discovered all the residents are ghosts. Do you believe in the paranormal? It's kind of hard not to when I live here. It's either that or I'm going insane. You check the door to see the number and freeze when you find out that it's the apartment right under yours. Yes, that apartment. Did your neighbor set up an elaborate prank? You open the crumpled letter once more to read it. Come find me before I find you. What do they want from me? It doesn't make any sense. I've never even met them. Your curiosity gets the better of you when you walk inside the dark apartment. Maybe it's time you met your neighbors after all. But what you discover forces all the air out of your lungs, and after all that you've experienced, that's saying something. Although it's hard to see in the dark, it's clear the apartment is completely empty, bare, no furniture, nothing except for a letter on the floor. They're crazy, I'm crazy, I've lost my mind, I'm crazy, I'm... Screaming in frustration, you march up to the letter with newfound anger. You pick it up with force, tearing it open so you can see what creepy mess it is this time. So you can get this over with and find the person who's messing with you and maybe call the police and... Found you. The 2 words, dripping in red, stare back at you tauntingly. Before you can react, the door slams shut, jerking you awake from your trance. In a state of panic, you rush to the door trying to push it open when you find it locked. A quiet laugh sounds from behind you, and you turn to see the figure with the red eyes coming closer. Help me! Someone help! You scream at the top of your lungs, pounding the door, hoping that someone might hear you and come to your rescue. But no one comes. Turning around, you slide down the door and curl up, giving up as the figure comes closer and closer. What do you want from me? You whimper, preparing for the worst. You feel a breath on your ear as it whispers, Found you. You jolt awake from a blood-curdling scream, the sound piercing your ears like a knife. Heart pounding and tangled in your sweaty blanket. You take a moment to calm down before sitting up on your bed. Checking your phone for the time, you see that it's 3 a.m. sharp. A sense of deja vu hits you as you think, something doesn't feel right. Then everything comes back to you in a flash. Waking up, going down to check the mail, the letters, the figure with red eyes following you, the apartment, and you sigh in relief when you realize it was all a nightmare. Maybe you'll just skip checking the mail tonight. You lay back down to go to sleep when you see the letter on your side table, the nightlight illuminating it like a spotlight. It can't be. Reaching over, you grab the letter even though your hand is shaking like a leaf. When you open it, two hauntingly familiar words stare back. Found you.